being imitation worthy is again me. So this concept of being imitation worthy was proposed by Rudolf Steiner, who founded anthroposophy, and anthroposophy applied to education came to be known as Waldorf education. And many of it aligns with the practices that we have had in India, Gurukul system and things like that. And Steiner refers to those as well. But the way he has put it out for teachers, for parents, for doctors, for farmers, and everything is very practical and very, it appears very doable instantly. And that's what appealed to me when I first got into, when I met World of Education, met Steiner work. So a quick overview, Steiner divides up this whole human lifespan into 7-year cycles. So we all grow in 7-year cycles. We do have other patterns as well, but we'll stick to 7-year for today. And the first 7 years is where the child is predominantly growing in their body, in the physical realm of the human being, and learning from imitating whatever is around them. And fortunately or unfortunately, we are around them, so they tend to imitate us as well. So it's not that imitation stops when the child turns 7 years old. I still imitate. But I have developed a discriminatory power, and I know, I like something in Debelina, and I don't like something in her. So I take only the aspects I like from her, and I say, okay, rest is fine. Children are not that way. Children take everything from Debelina because they don't have that discriminatory ability. That comes only in the third stage of child development, which is about 14 years to about 21 years of age. So first 7 years, child is basically developing in their physical bodies. You see them drastically change from very disproportionate body to a very proportionate by the time they're 7. And later on, we still grow physically, put on weight, grow tall, etc. But we still maintain that proportion that we have achieved by about 7 years of age. So children's life forces are very much used up for the physical development, and so they don't have much faculty in terms of feelings, in terms of thinking. So whatever they see, they do. And we understand a lot when we go back to our own childhood. It's very difficult to comprehend. Child might be imitating me, and we should not get into this black and white thinking. Oh my God, I said this. Will my child say it? If you have 2 children, or if you had siblings, you will see that same set of parents, same economical conditions. But for me, I have 2 younger siblings. All 3 of us turned out to be 3 different ways. We never, we imitated our parents, but we turned out, if you dig down, there will be some thread that will connect, an aspect of my mother, an aspect of my father. I picked it up. But then in that process, especially these days, children start going to play schools or babysitters when they're 2.5, 3 years old. So they become also predominant characters in the child's life. So I might be good. Again, that is, I don't know how to define it, because I may be good according to me, but my own husband may be saying, that's not the way you should be doing it. My mother-in-law may be cribbing about the way I do things. So good is again very perceptive concept. So, but whatever I know is best for my child, that I might be doing. But the child is stepping out every morning. I'm not available to them as much, and child is imitating what the babysitter speaks, what the babysitter eats, the kind of shows they watch, right? So children are basically one big sense organ. Steiner calls it like we're one big sponge, absorbing anything that comes. Later, I may filter it out. When my other faculties kind of develop, my belief system kind of gets into place when I'm under 9. So that's why it's so difficult for us, as adults now. We think I should never be like my mother, but invariably I end up doing something my mother did. And like, oh, what happened? I was so consciously wanting to not do it, but here I am. So that deep down, because it's a repetitive thing that we see, not hear. My mother had been saying, be a good child, but then I see her beating my younger sibling. So I'm like, I see you beat, so I can beat him too. So then I'm not a good child, right? So there is this hypocrisy. Children learn more from who I am rather than what I teach, because all my words just go over the head. Child will not even listen, cannot even comprehend, forget about keeping in mind. And oh, my mother told me once, and I should be going to bed at 9 p.m. Forget it. Unless every one of us is turning off the lights and going to bed by 9 p.m., it's not going to happen. And many parents who I talk with and teachers I talk with, they say, we told already, especially in schools, they say day one, everything is still chaotic. They have made, teachers have made the rule, and they put a chart in the classroom, they read it out, they explain it, and then expect children to follow it rest of the year. Won't happen unless the teacher is practicing that every single day, because they see more. I mean, my eyes are hyperactive. They just soak in everything out of all the sense organs. Eyes, I mean, that's why, you go into a temple, if you may be standing in line for 3 days, but you go in front of the deity for 2 minutes and you close your eyes. And people complain. I mean, you have been there and you didn't even see the idol, the God. But no, I mean, that's not how it is. Generally, we close our eyes to absorb the energy. So eyes are very, very powerful, and children are absorbing what we do rather than what we say. I was in a new town. I don't know which town. I was riding, wanting to reach somewhere. So we asked some person there, how do we go to that particular place? And he's showing with his fingers, turn right, but he's saying turn left. He's saying left, but doing the right gesture. I said, follow his gestures. Don't follow his words. Because gestures are like ingrained in my body. So right now, as an adult, when I get irked, somebody raising their eyebrows or somebody speaking a certain way, somebody sighing at me, I immediately interpret that is because that's a learned behavior, imitated, absorbed behavior from my parents, that, oh, they don't like me. So it's extremely important for me to be imitation worthy. I can rely on teachers. Teachers can be, if teacher is also great, imitation worthy, fantastic, my child is very blessed and everything works fine. But then children come back to me, no matter where they go, come back to me. So I need to be, in every sense of the word, my gestures, my actions, my words, the way I put things on the table, the way I clean up the dining table, the way I empty the dishes, I handle the dishes, everything matters. It sounds, oh my God, why did I even have a child? It's so much work. My daughter keeps telling me that when I talk about this, she's like, oh, I should now rethink about having a child. She just got married, and we keep talking. And yeah, that's what it is. If you want a child who has good relationship with you, who will become a beautiful human being. And if you have become a beautiful human being, it was because you had people worthy of imitation around you. I kept wondering, some of my mentors, they talk about all these great people they met, as a child, and I wondered, how did they meet, and how come I never met anybody worth remembering mentioning. And it's always their parents, they invited, they had study circles, they had groups. I have a cousin who volunteers for a very, very active city development group of people, and all those people are coming into their house every weekend. They're talking, sharing what to do, what not to do. But children are seeing this. And now my cousin need not say, go do something for the society. He doesn't have to say it at all. Doesn't mean they will do it though. I should not be under that impression at all. I have another family where the mother is a vocalist. She sings so beautifully. She gives programs on radio stations and whatnot. Her daughter won't open her mouth. She was so bugged as a kid because every day there was tuitions happening in the house, online classes happening, sing, 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 riyaz, riyaz, riyaz. She's like so tired. She doesn't even want to sing. So it doesn't mean we automatically pick up. As long as there is a flair for it, it's easy for the child to pick up. But now they will know what not to pick up also. Right? So imitation is both ways. It is just not, I need to be careful, but I cannot expect that because I do this, my child will also do that. I have one person I'm working with, and she's very much into healthy eating, and she makes all those porridges, ragi and this and that. 15, 16-year-old children she has, two boys. Do you think they're going to eat that and not bread, jam, pizza, and burgers and stuff? And she's so upset, I'm like, oh my God, I, bring this and wash it and dry it and grind it. I make so healthy. Yes, understand their age as well. Your intention is right. Child must understand your intention, and that is what they imitate as well. It is just not my physical movements. They imitate my gestures, they imitate my attitudes. You can see that if we have fought, the husband, wife, or mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, father-in-law, the son, whatever, there is a tensive environment in the house, the children withdraw and become quiet. One person I worked with, his father was a disciplinarian, military man, short tempered, extremely short tempered. So he and his sister were always under the bed, because father could not easily get them out and throw them or spank them or whatever, because they see father do that with their mother. So did he become like his father? No. But he and his wife were both together in a session. But he never became a good father because he was so afraid that something like this may spill out. So they came to a session, he understood the patterns, why he got what he got, and then, yeah, we have to work on it. And it's not like a gone case ever. We can always go back and learn, but then it's harder. So it's easier when I pay attention to my words, my gestures, and what am I expecting of the child. Especially when children grow up, do your homework first. And what am I doing at that time? I'm cooking, cleaning, on the phone, not with the child. So child is like, they don't have that ability to comprehend that this is my homework time, that's my mother's kitchen time. We can build it though. I mean, that's maybe another topic, setting up of a rhythm another time. But the child is confused. One thing for you, another for me. So if you are cleaning, I also want to clean. So building that expectation right, building those rhythms, all will help us, because I really don't know what to be. I mean, that's a big question many parents have, because imitation worthy, how should I be? Right? Is it, I mean, I just talked to somebody this afternoon. She's like, I'm giving my daughter everything she wants. I say yes to everything. That's not, being imitation worthy. That's like, yes to everybody. That's what the child will imitate. say yes to everybody, or I don't want to be like my mother, say no to everybody without even putting any filters in place. So, child is, anyway, all of us are imitative beings. I mean, if you really adore somebody, even at this age, you will start imitating them, some aspects of it. So, child learns through imitation, predominantly through imitation, until the change of teeth. That is around 6.5, 7 years of age, which is the first stage of childhood. So giving too much of gyan, intellectual inputs before they are 6 or 7 is not going to work. No instructions will ever work, mostly, because there's again repetition, there's a pattern formed, you yell, you scream, you don't follow me, I will not give you this, but then somebody comes and he will do that, and you will give him the ones that you said you would not give him. So child doesn't trust us anymore, right? So more than my actions, my inner life is what I need to worry about. I need to work on myself, because they get my attitudes, they get my fears, they also get my gratitude, my optimism, my resentment, my reverence, everything. And if I am, in majority of the cases, we are carrying a baggage from our own childhood, our own traumas, child will get that as well. That's why I'm not saying we're all perfect. I'm not saying we can be all perfect. It's like tree first or seed first. What do I get first? So many of them, get into this. I'm not going to have a baby until I'm perfect. And babies come to make you perfect. So as long as I'm on that inner path, that is something a child will imitate as well. Yeah, my mother made a mistake, my father made a mistake. They came around, they said they were sorry, and they're trying to not do the mistake. I see them journaling, I see them meditating, I see them talking, getting help, whatever, whatever. As long as you're in the path of self development, I think it is that's worthy of imitation. Being the best, I have my own doubts about it. Because we do mistakes. Yeah.
Ma'am, I think Seema has a doubt. Seema
Yes.
raised her hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't see her raising her hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are two things. One is when I'm listening to this, and also like throughout my motherhood journey, there is this pressure I feel always to be again perfect and doing the best. But then there are days because you're doing everything. So some people used to ask, "Oh, are you a single mother?" And they're like, "Oh, even my mother was a single mother because my father was always like my father was in army and then he was always out." So I think 99% of the mothers are single mothers
Yeah.
because it's us who are planning and everything we're doing on our own and very little support, whatever we get. So there's this urge and pressure I feel to be, never raising my voice. But then there are days I raise because I'm so done. And I
Yeah.
raise my hand and I feel bad about it. And then I go to her, apologize, and sometimes we both cry, hug each other, like, oh, and then she also apologizes that, oh, mama, this is what I did. I should not have. So it just happens. But then there is this pressure which keeps coming. And once I was writing about it, I was also talking to some mothers. This is like how every mother is guilty. There's no mother working, not working. So, and when I was writing about it, I felt like guilt is the second name for us.
Mm.
Now, we all feel like, oh, so every night when I go to bed and Sitara sleeps, I feel, oh, today this I could have done better. But there are very few days I compliment myself. Uh, and these compliments come from maybe like circles like this when some fellow mother will tell me, hey, you handled that situation so well today. Oh yes, I did not even notice because we tend to notice only those things which we are not doing right.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that has been happening. That's one thing. Another is what you were saying, how working on our inner self, and
Mhm.
that has been one observation. So when I conceived, since then I've been writing a diary. Like physically, I write
Mm.
my inner things, and when Sitara was born, and whatever I'm feeling and how I see reflections of that in her. So one recent example was when I was in Sadhana forest. She was at the top of a hut, which is the biggest hut. So more than 25 feet, more than that. Like she was there on the top. And I was not around. I just came and I said, "Oh, where is Sitara, guys?" And oh, she's there. I just saw her, and suddenly my heart, and I had tears. And the founders of that place, because one of them was there, they said, "You get fear, you leave this space right now, Seema, right now." And then they explained the whole thing later. She came down on her own. But, and this happened a few times. So whenever she would be at the top, I would leave that space. But once I really wanted to try, does this really work? My fear gets transferred to her. I really wanted to experiment this. So she was there, not very top, but almost 15 feet or something. She was on a ladder in the hut. And then I was fearful, but I did not leave that space. I was just observing my fear. And that was the only day she, like, she could not come down, and she slipped. Her feet slipped, and then I had to rush, and then one person also rushed, and then we had her come down. So that was one experiment which happened. And
Mm.
after that I started observing more what I am feeling inside and how that gets transferred to her. So what you're saying, like, it's so true, and I completely believe in it. I'm so glad I'm here today
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
to all of this.
Yeah, it's amazing. See, many a times we don't even have time to observe. That's the sad part of modern families. But guilt need not be our second name once we understand the stages of development. And everybody goes through it. Every 5-year-old across the globe goes through this. That is how it's like rose, right? I mean, you plant it wherever it can grow. You cannot take it to Greenland, but it grows the same way. It takes the same time to form the buds and to bloom up and stay fragrant and healthy for week, 2 week, whatever, right? It's the same thing. Mango tree is a mango tree is a mango tree. There are varieties of mango trees. And once we accept it, the problem we have is because of our own conditioning, we want mango trees to give us oranges. Because the environment is saying the orange is nicer, whatever. So if I can get over that little understanding, worst what is going to happen? She's going to break one of her limbs. It's better than breaking a heart. It's better than not developing her own emotions. It's body part she can heal, right? So yes, it is so subtle. That's why we can't see it. This is a very standard example I typically start the sessions with. When we are pregnant with a baby and the baby is all grown, 7.5 months, 8 months, doctor says, it's all fine, you can get the baby out. We won't agree. Third trimester is so difficult for us, but we still go through it, right? Because there is an imminent fear that there could be death, the physical death we can see, if not that deformities that I have to live with for a long time. So I'm willing to put up that pain for another month, 2 months. But once the baby is born, we don't see the inner life of the baby anymore. That is so abstract concept. I can see only the physicality. So that's why Steiner talks about developing clairvoyance, seeing with your mind's eye. Physical eyes have limitations. Physical sense organs, my eyes, my ears, have limitations. But see, we know that, we know the clairvoyance in us. We start talking about lemon pickle and this and that, my mouth starts watering, even without having the lemon pickle on my tongue. So we are tasting it without actually having it. So we do have lots of those cases with us. It just, one is, the great thing Debalina is doing, getting people to come and talk and share. And, so we kind of understand the stages of child's development and what is to be expected and things like that. And there are a lot of other questions that come up, if my child is imitating, I was really angry and I shouted at somebody, will my child imitate that? Yes. But then the child will also see you go back and say, I really lost my cool today. I wonder why I shouted. I shouldn't have shouted. So I'll go back and talk to that person tomorrow. And if my child will see me talking to that person tomorrow, I'll say, yeah, things happen. But then I set my ego aside. I saw my mother do that, set the ego aside, go up to that person and apologize. That's a possibility. That also they imitate, right? So that's why I go a lot with my inner self in every form and way. If I am on that path, and that is endless, and I'm 50, I'll be 59 soon. I still keep learning. It never ends. I thought I was done with everything I had with my mother until I started working on my biography this week. Like, oh my God, really? So much we have acquired and we have forgotten, which is good and bad. Steiner talks about that as well. It's good that you've forgotten, and it's good to remember it. So it's like, I mean, he always talks in paradoxes. It's like, yes, it's good for you to sleep, but it's also good for you to be awake. Things like that. So sleep when you're awake and be awake when you're asleep. I mean, that's another level of concept. So many of these things, right? And especially when your child is about 5, 6 years of age, when you start talking to them about your own stories, and children have seen you, but then when they start talking, I had this thing, my mother hates men. One thing, she just told me one time that her mother, she used to get these seizures during delivery time. And my mother has 5 siblings, and invariably every delivery she had the seizure. But then she passed away in her sixth delivery. So she hates her father, knowing very well that she would get that. Why did he have to make her pregnant again? Right? And then I was like, oh, is that what it is? And then later, one time when we were talking, something came up on the TV. She said, I hate this man. And apparently one of her school teachers, the schools were in temples those days. She's 78 now, so we're talking about 70 years ago. She had to, like, children took turns to go early to school and sweep and mop, whatever. She was sweeping, and this teacher apparently came and touched her, and she took the same broom, hit him, and ran home. And we used to tease her, oh, she's the brave-hearted one who had the courage to hit her teacher with the broom, but we didn't know the reason. And so that made her develop certain belief system. I hate men. And then I'm growing up with that notion that she's carrying around. Then I'm confused. Should I hate men too? Men, including my uncles, my brothers. It's not just XYZ. So that's when, so, but if she had verbalized it, and I think we should start verbalizing it beginning 7, 8 years of age, all this, but that comes in the second stage of child development. So I'll stick to the first stage, from 0 to 7. So Steiner says this again and again, because this child is one big sense organ, because they're absorbing everything, we are saying, doing, reacting, acting, whatever, I must educate myself. I must educate myself. It's not that I need to be perfect. I need to be present. I need to be aware. I need to be aware of my thoughts. Many a times we just act, not knowing where that action came from. And if you pay a little attention, there is a thought, and the thought is what directed my brain to let the motor nerves know that I need to raise my right hand and swing it. And by the way, I slapped the child. There was a thought that he's not listening to me. She's becoming too much to handle. How many times should I tell? Now, especially the ones living with joint families, including parents living or joint, real joint, two brothers and whoever living together. There's a lot of comparison. So it's extremely important for me to manage my thoughts. And the minute I'm able to manage my thoughts, my actions, my gestures naturally come out with a lesser intensity, become less frequent. So the patterns that are forming, my brother, he was very a tough child growing up, and my mother would beat him. She never ever hit me or my youngest brother, but the middle one always got the beatings. And it was like he would do something and he'll come home, he'll turn his back and give my mother a scale in her hand. He'll say, beat me, even before telling what he did. Because it was a pattern. He knew if he said something, she would beat him. So get the beatings, be done. So does that mean he can continue to do what he wants to do? Obviously not. But that pattern, my mother should have learned at that point that he's imitating, maybe not hitting, but that pattern is what he's imitating. And children will tell us that in various ways, not in the words. And when they do tell in words, we don't like it. Our egos are shattered. But they do tell us. You allow them to say, and this is a challenge I used to give my teachers. If you really have courage, give children blank sheet of paper, like small chips, and a pencil. Ask them to write with their left hand so we don't recognize their handwriting, because we have tendency, who wrote this? Let me find out and take revenge on them later on. So tell them, write with their left hand, fold it, and put this in this jar, and I'll collect. And you can see everything coming out because they see that. I may not see it, I may not even know it, because my actions, my words, my gestures have become subconscious. They're driven. We know we are operating by subconscious. If once you have learned driving, be it even a two-wheeler with four people sitting behind you, you can be on the phone talking and you'll reach your destination fine and safe, unless somebody else made a mistake. We are so automatic. We are not even present cognitively, and that's how it is, because I cannot be aware and conscious every minute of my waking hour. That's impossible. I mean, I'll go crazy if I do that. That is why we have rhythms. We develop certain habits. We focus on one habit, pay attention to doing that habit, in the sense one aspect. We do that consciously until it becomes a habit. Then it just happens. That's in subconscious. So many things that I do, I say, are coming out of my subconscious belief system, which I'm not aware. So I recommend, many of us, if you are daring to do it, record yourself when you talk to your children and see how beautiful our tones are. The language that I use, the pauses that I make. One child told her mother, you never ever say yes to me. And the mother is like, I always say yes to you. I've given up everything of my own and I say yes to you. Both are right. But both don't see the point. And I cannot blame the child. I have to begin with the parent. Right? So every child brings with him or her his own individuality. We are like what Steiner says, we are spiritual beings having a human experience on this planet Earth. I have my own destiny. I have my own set of tasks to accomplish. As a parent, my job is to provide that environment. It's like bringing home a mango seed. It has its destiny. If you put it in a small pot, it's never going to flourish. So I need to know the quality of it, and I need to put it in the right place, give it the right environment. That's all my job is. Right? And it's difficult, in the environment we are in, people are going to say, you don't care for your child, you don't discipline the child, you don't stop them, you have to do this, and we did that, and yeah, it goes on and on. I mean, child raising is changing, just like how we have Gen Z, Zen Alpha, Zen Beta, parenting also, parenting Z, parenting Alpha, parenting Beta. My mother's parenting doesn't work now. The intentions still work, but the way we do it doesn't work. Right? But understanding it, allowing them freedom, it's okay for children to make mistakes until they are 7, because we don't want them to make mistakes when they're 80. So give them that. And to give them that, you need to do that. You need to play, you need to talk, you need to make mistakes, you need to mess the place up, you need to clean it up, and they copy that. The first time around, you clean with them. The second time, you share the responsibility. I mean, first time meaning it could be a whole week long, whole month long, until child kind of develops that skill. Then you do it together. And then it's like, yeah, you spilled, can you please clean it up? I will do the dishes, you do this. And they say you, I mean, we all learned cooking by seeing our mothers. We imitated, right? We have a taste in our head, and you can never make anyone else to me. That's why husbands complain, my mother always makes this better than you, because they have that taste in their head. You can't erase it. And I would say the same thing. My mother makes it better than my mother-in-law. That's how it is. That is fine. Right? As long as I'm willing to say, yes, your mother does it well, I'm trying. That's it. That's fact. That's truth. I don't have to beat my mother-in-law. I don't have to please my husband. That's not my job. My job is to feed if I've taken that up as my duty. Right? I myself get into all this, the guilt that you're talking. I know I've been working and I've been guilty forever. Ever since I remember myself, I've been guilty. So it's not my first name only. It should be guilty Shubha. But I understand it now better than any time before in my life, that I created that for myself. Of course, as a child, I had no option about it. But now, as an adult, now being an aware adult, I definitely don't want to give that to my child. Now, that's why we need to become imitation worthy. It's not about academics, because every habit that I have, there's a belief. There's a belief about it. So now the child may take up that belief, provided I don't talk about it. Then I'm just doing it out of habit. That's what the child will imitate, the gestures, attitudes, fears, anger, lust, greed, and you name it. My relationship with money, my relationship with work. Right? Oh my God, it's so difficult to handle people coming home. If I have that belief, my child will also say, no, I think never have any relatives home. It was beautiful. One of my co-workers, her parents had some relationship issues with one of the relatives, and she never got to see him, meet him ever. And once, she happened to visit Bangalore where he lives, and she had nobody else there, so she visited him, and he was such a sweet person. And I missed learning with him, being with him, talking with him for so many years because of the beliefs my parents had. Right? So that is where we need to become a little aware. And the best thing is to record myself. Maybe you can set a video camera and record yourself. Audio, definitely audio. And you can tell any significant adults who are there, if you see something that whatever I'm doing isn't very right, feel free to tell me. I am a very hypersensitive person. If they tell you did this wrong, I'm like all up in arms. So I tell it little gently or write it out and give it to me. My daughter, I have all those notes she had written to me. I know you'll be angry, but I still stole 10 rupees from your purse and bought a pack of kurkure and had it. I'm like, whenever I find them now, I'll take a picture of those and keep posting to her. And that's the way she was communicating. It's fine. But somehow she had an idea that I would get angry, not at eating kurkure, but taking the 10 rupees without telling me. And I was never around to tell. And there were no phones when she was little, or she didn't have a phone. I had one. She couldn't call me. But there was guilt in her because she saw me getting angry whenever somebody did something without telling me. And it was never directed towards them, but they had it. And both my children tell me, oh my God, we're shit scared of you growing up. I'm like, really? I played so much with, yeah. That's why it compensated and we stuck out with you because you played and you talked and we did funky things also. If I hadn't done the other side of it, then imagine how it would be, right? That was not my intention. I was carrying that anger, frustration, guilt from before the kids were born. So being imitation worthy goes back. I mean, that's one thing that I have read somewhere, and my daughter also pointed out that because you have been continually working on yourself, you're learning, you're admitting your mistakes, and it's like a process that we saw even growing up. And I was mostly a seeker, so I kept going from one course to another course, did this and that and whatnot. So they thought, yeah, I mean, there is some shift, maybe very minor shift. But now that we are very aware, I mean, I got to know Steiner only when my children were 12, 13, 10 and 12, I guess. They never went to Waldorf school, but that was actually a turning point in becoming aware that they look up to me. They see me do it. My daughter never saw me sewing a button on a shirt. And last year I was visiting her and button came off. She says, I need to take this to a tailor. I said, for what? No, to put the button on. What? I mean, I was shocked. To put a button on, you are going to take to a tailor and pay $10 for that? Like, yeah, I don't know how to. I said, what? I was sewing all the time. You didn't even see me? She said, you never did that when I was around. That came as like a big blow to me because I assumed she would know it. Right? So imitation is extremely good, bad, otherwise. I need to become visible to my child. I need to be around them. I need to do things. These days, somewhere, the wealth, the financial abundance sometimes is not very good. Because then we have our own rooms, we have our own beds, we have our own bathrooms. It's good once in a while to all come together in the living room, use a single bathroom once a week. 2 bathrooms get locked. We all use single bathroom. So we take turns and how to keep it clean, how to walk out of it, and all that kind of stuff. We have to deliberately create situation where children see us. Yeah. So it's yes. Development.
Satara was drawing something and she
Devlin, I have a question.
Yeah, so what I wanted to know, does Steiner talk about anything like the boys imitating fathers more or girls imitating mothers more? Do they absorb the parents differently in the first 7 years? I'm saying afterwards, when they become aware of their genders, I don't know, but I'm just curious to know.
Yeah. See, there is gender because masculine body, masculine characters typically, it's both ways. See, it could be a boy, but then we have the masculine and the feminine side. All of us have both aspects to us. So if it's a boy, and if the boy has dominant feminine nature, then he may not imitate father, right? And being a girl, I had more masculine qualities in me. So I took up on my father on fixing and assembling furniture and doing like no girly stuff. I never knit and sew and things like I did later on for survival. But as a girl would do, decorate something and wear like floral clothes. I never did any of that. I was more going after my father, painting with him and carpentry with him and stuff like that. So it all depends on what I'm made up with, right? There's another aspect, if you have multiple children, your first child typically imitates your external organization. If you think about it, when you are going to have your first baby, we don't know the experience, we are setting up the place, we are making the room, we are buying this, we are doing that, all of that. So we are all looking at external rearrangement of my space. If I'm working, then I need to go on maternity leave. When do I go back after the leave, and who do I get for help? All those logistic kind of things is what the child will predominantly get to imitate. But with your second child, we are set with those. I know the experience now. I know, okay, there are already stuff from the older child. If their younger one is like within 2 years or so, you still have those clothes, and you don't have to be so paranoid and all that. So the second child has a higher tendency to absorb your inner gestures more. They're more looking out for your attitudes. Of course, your older child will also look out for attitudes, but react more to the external things. Second one reacts more to your internal gestures. The best is to have 3 children. The third one is fine. Two older siblings to play with. Parents have gotten over their inner balance and outer balance, and parents are also not very paranoid about the third child. Whoever takes care of it, take care of it. I'm not going to bother him, and so he's going to or she's going to have like a very lively environment, and things like that. So that's what Steiner talks about. Now, fourth, fifth, of course, we don't have to talk. We don't have any of those problems anymore. But yeah, it has those impact. And again, we talked about imitation as one aspect. Then we have incarnation, your previous vasanas coming with you, your temperament playing its role, the baggage that parents are carrying having its role. Many other aspects also play. There is what is it called, epigenetics, the environment around also has a impact, whether single family, multi-family, big family, um, losing a parent, divorces, many other things also have an impact. So that's why every time if I'm working in trying to overcome every small discomfort that I feel on daily basis. Now, let's say my daughter and my niece are the same age. My niece gets a promotion. My daughter doesn't. Let's say they're also working in the same company, whatever. I'm slightly jealous, right? Even though I may not show it, I may not act, I might be a little jealous. Work on that immediately. Why am I jealous? Again, understanding those two have their own destinies. Those two have their own baggages that they have to work out in their lives. Why am I even wasting my energy right now? That is when you are training your thinking process. Thinking to think. Where Steiner talks about the thought also as an organ. We think thoughts are abstract, right? Just like I have a heart, a liver, a kidney, the thought is also kind of this subtle organ that you can actually train. And the training is more like looking at facts. My niece is good with this. She got a job here, she deserves the raise, or she got the raise, not even deserve. Deserve is again my opinion. My daughter did this. She did not get a raise, period. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. Then I'm not even bothered by it. And then the way I am around my children is, I mean, well, now job is a bad example because they grew up now. I don't have children around. But if let's say my niece got more marks than my daughter in their fourth grade, then I'm carrying that jealousy with me, and children are absorbing that. Somewhere my mother is not very comfortable. She does not like my cousin. Somewhere I should be like my cousin. My cousin got more marks. Somewhere I'm not getting more marks. So maybe she doesn't like me. We don't know how the child will interpret it. They will not voice it. That is why it's important for me to clear it. So I become like a clean, transparent channel. So what they absorb, imitate from me are actions, gestures, which can be corrected, which can be modified. I did what I did today. That doesn't mean tomorrow similar situations happen. I will do the same thing. That is when I'm not creating a pattern. Right? Just like how Gandhiji wrote his autobiography, calling it My Experiments with Truth. It's like today, that's the truth. Tomorrow it might not be, it might change because I'm at a different conscious tomorrow if I'm working on myself, if I'm on this path of self-development. Right? Because somewhere children are, yes, Devalina. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Working on myself, it's a very it's a very broad thing, right? So when it comes to working on myself, I think there is a physical self that I can work upon, the body, taking care of the body, taking care of the diet, nutrition, and all of those things is also working on myself.
Yeah.
And then working on myself as the abstract part of me, the part that I cannot see but feel. Now, I mean, people who have not been introduced into this journey of, I feel that working on the physical part is way easier than working on this abstract part, because it's very difficult to face yourself, like the example that you gave about jealousy. So I mean, through my internal thinking, one day there was an aha moment when I realized that I'm actually very jealous of my best friend. She was a better student, but eventually we both gotten into similar things only, but all through the school lives she got better marks and I did not get as much, and we were always being compared. But despite being very close, there was this jealousy there, and the moment I realized it, I started feeling lighter. So, but the thing is that how would you say that a person who is just getting introduced in this working on the self abstract part, how should they start? Where do they start?
Yeah. One is pause a little. If I practice pausing several times during the day, just to check on my body. Body is an excellent indicator. You're jealous, you feel kind of a twitch there. You're anxious, your heart is beating fast. You're afraid, maybe you get a migraine. You have to see somebody that you really don't like to see, you will feel a knot in your stomach. So body gives you good indications. Again, it settles down into the body, but the process has started much, much earlier, which we have not healed, we may not understand yet. But those of us who are not there yet, best thing is to pause, pay attention to your body. What is it that I am feeling right now? And just name it. I'm angry, I'm jealous, I am. If you don't have any word for it, say, I don't even know, but I'm not comfortable. I don't like being here, I hate that person, whatever it is, just say that out loud and be okay with it to begin with. right? And then bringing back perspective, you could write out some stuff, that reminds you. And used to set up an alarm on my phone every 2 hours. Pause, observe, right? And until it becomes a habit. And now, if there is any discomfort, I'll immediately know that, what am I? I used to get bad migraines, and it used to be whenever I felt I was let down remotely. I mean, people may not have done it actually, but if I perceived that they would let me down, I would get a severe migraine. I had to sleep the entire night, pop in like 4 pills, and only when I had that deep sleep where my mind detached from the body, that my body settled. That I suffered for years. So I'm sure all of us will have some of those indicators that we can begin working on it, knowing that now, after this session, that if I don't address it, my child is going to get it from me in some way or the other. And everything we are doing is for the sake of child. I may have quit my job, I may have reduced my working hours, I may be putting up with whatever else that shortcomings, sacrifices, everything for the sake of children. So understanding that will help us get into knowing myself a little deeper. And then it's a process. It takes some work. Journaling is one of them, meditations, reflecting, whatever. So I think that Subhashini is saying something. I found the techniques of Vipassana. Yeah, that's a beautiful technique. And there are lots of techniques like that. Whatever works will help. Yeah. Thanks, Seema. This would be a good closing, actually, Gayatri's question. What kind of human being am I giving my child the opportunity to imitate? What kind of person am I going to be like? If your child imitates you 100%, would you be happy the child becoming like you today? That's the question we need to be asking. And I definitely don't want my children to be as guilty like I was. I don't want my child to be like hypersensitive like I am. So then I need to change. I need to work on myself. And it's a process. Nothing is ready-made. There's no allopathic quick treatment here.
I
It's a
think that
process.
question is beautiful because it just immediately, takes your attention to the things that you want to kind of work on, heal from. Like the moment you said, I would say like I'm much better, but the fear was a very big part in
Mhm.
me. So the moment you asked, I'm like, I definitely not want him to be as anxious or fearful as me. So that's like an action point for me, and then I take the actions that I need to, right?
Yes.
Mm.
And he'll see you as, he may have seen you as being fearful, but then he sees that you're not fearful anymore. So something shifted in between. What is that? And what is that will also be something he'll absorb. So he will also become that seeker, and he will grow to be, somebody who is learning constantly. And that's what we want them to be, right? Because I don't know if I'm right. Yeah. Cool. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for, if anyone has any question, ma'am is there in the group also. So you guys can drop in your questions. And ma'am has she does every day, she speaks for half an hour. She puts up a video. She has her own YouTube channel. So we'll share it tomorrow. On Saturdays, we do share the work that we are doing for children, for parents. So you may join that as well, because if you have a child who is older than 7 years, or we are primarily covering things, everything everything is applicable to everyone, but still if you have older children or if you are looking beyond, what, because these sessions are like 15 days. So ma'am talks, speaks every day in the morning, and she has those videos uploaded on her YouTube channel. So you can definitely go through them. There's a lot of wisdom out there. And thank you all for joining. Yep, that's
Yeah,
it
thank
from
you.
my
Thank
side.
you. All the very best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Prerna. Bye.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना।